Hi, and welcome to This Made My Week, a positive news show where I tell you all about the good things that are happening around the world and you and your nervous system rest. Today, I'm going to be talking about this shift in the energy and people uprising. Also, I will tell you about my current favorite YouTuber and TikTok content creator named Gary Stevenson, who says that we should tax the money, not the work. Excuse me? Genius. Also, a Netflix show that everyone's talking about, which is Adolescence, of course. I'm gonna give you my 2 cents about it. And then lastly, I'm gonna share such a heartwarming story about a woman with Down syndrome and how her community is showing up for her. You don't wanna miss that, so stick around and let's get into it. The very first thing that is totally making my week, and I'm sure it's making many people's week, is the fact that we just had Spring Equinox, which means that we are finally in spring and awakening season. And I don't know, maybe it is the fact that days are getting longer and warmer, but I can sense and see, actually, this shift that is happening when people are awakening as well, where their awareness, their work, their participation is gaining a momentum. Seeing Bernie Sanders and AOC gathering record-breaking numbers of people together to fight the oligarchy, especially in red states, is something that is totally making my week. The Veterans March that happened in DC a few weeks ago that was not televised, but it's all over social media, is also making my week. Seeing teachers in Colorado and educators protesting against education cuts for public education, gathering together and standing up for students, for kids, and for people who seek knowledge is making my week. Seeing the Jewish Voice for Peace protesters taking over Trump's tower and demanding the release of Mohammed Khalil, a pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia University, that is certainly making my week. And it's not just in America, it's global. Seeing the largest rally ever in Serbia of 325,000 people on the streets asking their corrupt government to do a better job. That is so inspiring. Also, European Union solidarity against Russia and against Trump's administration. Tesla stock going down and down every single day. That is making my week. And you know what? The thing is, it is not one side fighting against another. It's not about left versus right. It's not about one country against another country. No. What is happening deeply at the core is the fact that regular people like you and me are finally recognizing their power. And they're recognizing that when we gather together, when we gather in large numbers, we can make meaningful changes that are good for everybody and not just selected few, not just politicians, not just billionaires who are hoarding wealth and making us poor every single day. No, this is about moving away from individualism and thinking just about me, and moving towards collective consciousness that is, again, good for everybody. When we get there, we can create heaven on earth. In my lifetime, I know that I won't see this end, when we all live in peace and love, and that's okay. But just moving there is enjoyable enough, and it is making my week, and it gives me a lot of meaning and purpose in my life, and just translating this to you as well, like spreading this message and spreading this type of energy is already enough. So this has made my week. Okay, now that I got that out of my system, I want to share one of my favorite YouTubers and TikTokers right now. His name's Gary Stevenson, and he's mostly creator on YouTube, and he's gaining a momentum as well. He's so popular right now. He has a channel called Spring Equinox. Over there, he shares educational content about economics, about money, about wealth inequality, and many other things. And he is the one who fights for people. He says that rich will keep getting richer, and poor will keep getting poorer, and eventually the middle class will disappear. What he says, this idea that we should tax the money, not the work. And I love this idea because now that I heard it, it just makes sense. His content is so educational and he's so eloquent. explaining all of these difficult things to regular people who know nothing about economics like me. He's been on Piers Morgan. He is talking to other millionaires and he's having discussions about, you know, wealth and how to make money, and he's fighting them and their ideas that everybody can make money and everybody can, you know, pick themselves up and work hard enough and become rich. And he says, no, it's not how it works. This is not realistic for most people. And he's right, especially in the current climate. His message is really resonating with people. I really encourage you to follow him, watch his content, support his message, keep spreading, because he says that more people need to know this information and more people need to fight this, because it is up to us to make sure that we tax the rich, because politicians, they will keep telling us that this is not possible because they're also millionaires, because they don't want this to happen. Do you know what? It is possible. It is possible if enough of us stand up and demand it. You know what I love about Gary's message the most? It actually relates to conscious living and maybe even spirituality. So he says that most politicians, they only focus on growing the economy. And if they say, if only we do more, if only we produce more, if only we work more, if only we have more businesses, if only more people pay taxes, like, it will fix the system. And he says, no, there is enough of money already as it is, but we need to delegate it differently. There is enough of money. It's the same in our personal lives. We keep saying to ourselves, if only I do this, then I will be better. If only I get this education and this diploma. If only I get married and have a bunch of kids, that will make me better. If only I make more content, that will make me better. If only I have more clothes, more things, more stuff, more money, more anything, that will make me better. No, it won't. The work is to recognize that you are already enough as you are. You always have been and you always will be enough as you are. So it is about this personal recognition of enoughness as well as collective recognition of enoughness. I think we grew too much already. Look what we're doing to our planet. I think it's enough. We've done enough. Now we need to change the system and to make sure that everybody gets enough, that everybody receives of that enoughness and that it's not hoarded in one place. That's the work. Okay, let's move forward and shift gears a little bit. I'm sorry, the light is weird, but it is what it is. I am just embracing the fact that I can film this during the day. What a luxury for me, instead of doing this in the middle of the night. Anyways, have you seen Adolescence yet on Netflix? It's the show that everyone's talking about because I feel like it carries a very important message, or messages, I should say, because there are many of them in this show. If you haven't seen it, it's a limited series on Netflix. There are 4 episodes and they're a beautiful piece of art because all of the episodes, they have been filmed in one shot. And you really have to appreciate how much work and coordination had to happen in advance to carry us through so seamlessly through the storytelling. Just filming, acting was at another level. It was absolutely beautiful masterpiece. This show so perfectly holds a mirror in front of us and shows us where we are at as a society, as culture, as people, as individuals. So basically, a story is about a 13-year-old boy who kills another girl. I think she was his classmate, if I remember correctly, so the same age girl. And the whole show is trying to figure out why. There's no doubt from the very beginning that he did it because it's on videotape, but the question is why? And the way they created the show is so beautiful because it's full of symbols. It's full of truth telling in a very direct manner, but also kind of in the background, so you have to read in between the lines. But it makes you feel all the feels throughout the show, and honestly, it was really sad to see and sobering to see at the same time, because you could so clearly witness what we are not doing right. So you see adults being completely disconnected from children, and you see these neglected kids, emotionally mostly neglected kids, being disconnected from adults, from one another, and from themselves, from their hearts, so then they can do these horrible things like, kill another child. You see how, because parents are struggling financially, because everybody has to work, so there is no village to raise a child. That's the thing. I think we all understand that it takes a village to raise a child, but there is no village because everyone's working. Everyone's surviving, trying to survive. And because there is this lack of these present, attuned, self-regulated adults, the parent becomes social media. Social media, internet in general, and that's where fellas like Andrew Tate step in, and all of this toxic, patriarchal, teaching that kids take from online world, and then they become conditioned, and the cycle of abuse, of disconnect, of inequality, of injustice, it keeps continuing, and this trauma is passed on from generation to generation, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And we are seeing this in the show, and we see in detail, in small and big details, how this happens every single day at school, on the phone, at home, in the kids' bedroom, while they're on computers. Truly, this show really stayed with me. And also, what I heard someone on TikTok say, and also I'm affirming this message, how sad it is to see that men had to create this show for this global conversation to happen, because these are the things that women have been talking about for years, especially after the Me Too movement started. So it's not news to some, but it is news to many others, and I'm rooting for the show, and I'm really happy about its success because it sparks a very needed conversation, especially between adults and teenagers. And I really encourage you. What really made my week was also not only seeing the show, but seeing all the discussion happening online, especially on TikTok, where people are taking, they're analyzing the show, they're pointing to details that I haven't noticed in the show, and they're sharing their stories, and they're showing how they fixed it, or how could this be improved, and it's beautiful, the conversation, online. So the rippling effect of Adolescence, I could not recommend this enough. Go and watch it. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to hide from the sun. I don't know if this is better or not. I have my curtains closed. Anyways, for the very end, I wanted to share the most heartwarming story that reminds us that people are actually really, really good. So in East Idaho, there's a small town called Pocatello, and over there, Christina Kavanaugh lives. She has a Down syndrome, and together with her mom for the last at least 15 years, they've been going to this video rental store called Video Stop. And recently they learned that this video stop is closing. It's not profitable, nothing, And Tony, Christina's mom, was really worried and anxious because Christina doesn't deal well with change, and she doesn't really understand the concept of things closing. And it has been a vital part of their weekly routine because they used to go to the store every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So when she learned that the owner of the store decided to close the Video Stop, but next door he has another store called K&B Quick Stop Shop, he dedicated a small portion of that store, a corner of it, and he left all of Christina's favorite DVDs and videos, and he kept the video rentals open just for her and another few loyal customers, but mostly for her. You can imagine that this made Tony and Christina really happy, and I love this story because it really shows that you don't have to be exceptional, you don't have to be rich, you don't have to be famous, you don't have to be big or anything for you to be good and for you to do exceptional things. I also really appreciate Logan Ramsey. He is the author of the article, which I'm definitely leaving the link below. So he wrote about the story in East Idaho website. I absolutely love small local journalists, small local newspapers, magazines. They mean everything to me. I love reading them because they tell true stories about real people. Alright, these were all the stories that I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you have a good, uplifting, positive story, please send me an email. Everything's below. I'd love to share it together with everybody else. Also, if you are running heart-centered business and if you care more than just profit but about bigger thing and you have a bigger message to spread, send me an email. I'd love to make a segment or possibly even a separate video about you to spread awareness. Now, in the meantime, make your own week, make someone's week. Why? Because you can. That's why. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.